Coming up on River City Presents, we're going to be discussing a Lowertown staple, Etcetera Coffeehouse with Jean Rhodes. Welcome to River City Presents. I'm your host, Daniel Hurt. One of the things that happened in the early days of Lowertown renovations in the mid-2000s was Etcetera Coffeehouse came to be. And here to talk about it is one of the longest employees and the administrative director of Etcetera Coffeehouse, Jean Rhodes. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm very glad to have you here, and if you'll just sort of, I think everybody in Lowertown knows that Etcetera Coffeehouse is the place to be for coffee, and it's an independent place. It's very different than the chains that we may have experienced in the past. Sort of set the scene for what Lowertown looked like before Etcetera and sort of how it came to be.
Well, let's see. Etcetera was started it opened in 2006. It started being built in 2005. And that was in sort of the earlier days of the Artist Relocation Program, which is sponsored by the city and Paducah Bank, with cheap properties and renovation loans being given to artists that were living to live and work in the community, which is a really successful program in its day. I actually worked at a couple businesses in Lowertown in 2005, which is how my mom started coming down there and saw the program and got the idea that she kind of wanted to start a coffee shop and a little thing down there, and then she took that idea and ran with it. And
so it started in 2006. I'm assuming it looked a lot different. I know one of the things that we talked about just in passing before was, the Carson Center wasn't there until like 2004, and Lowertown really changed a whole lot. Even the building that Etcetera is located at on 6th Street wasn't even there, right?
Yeah, we were just a parking lot before it was built. So that was really cool to see that change. And yeah, it's more of a family neighborhood now. The artists have come and largely gone. There are a few people still there. But just the change that happened to the neighborhood because that program came in, really revitalized the entire area and brought it a step up because it was a pretty rough area before that program happened.
It's been there a long time, and you've been there since the day it opened. Is there anybody else who's been there since the day it opened? Or?
Yeah, I have. So one of my fellow board members, Emily Clark, she has also been there since day one. And I guess I'm technically not even supposed to still be here. I kind of ended up here because I took a semester off of college. I was going to school at the time Etcetera opened, and I said, I'll come back for a semester and help you guys get started. I've got some experience doing this and help Emily and everybody get it off the ground. And then I never left, so I may in fact still be enrolled at college somewhere. I've never checked actually. So yeah.
Well, tell me, what goes into being a barista? Because one of the things that, and that's such a generic question, I know, but one of the things that I know is when people come in, they're all, they sometimes don't know what they want. There's a lot of art that goes into it, knowing how to make the drinks differently and all of that. So tell me about how you manage doing what you do while at the same time knowing how to help people come up with.
Well, I think one thing that we really encourage is, for people to experiment on the clock, drink things, try new things all the time. We have such a huge menu and all of the recipe card file and all of the employee inventions, just because we really encourage people to play around with stuff, don't stick to our recipes, do your own thing. And most of our recipes are really staff guided. If we want to make a change to something, a lot of that happens at employee meetings. We'll pass things around and say, okay, do we like version A, version B? This person came up with this new drink. What do we think about it? And we try and be really employee guided in that area. So, I feel like it shows that people like what they do, and they only sell things that they think are good. I kind of tell people, don't recommend something unless you really like it, because it kind of shows. And that's kind of the fun part of it, when it's not so busy that you have time to really talk with someone and figure out what they like and make them something that feels special for them. That's a really cool customer connection.
And I suppose that's how you met me and everybody else did. So everybody comes in and they learn the drinks that they like, and you all help them kind of guide that. But it also, sort of improves the general overall experience. So like you'd said before that while administrators may be in the back doing what they do, it's the folks out front that really make the difference
Yeah.
and boost the business.
Absolutely, and I've always said that, I have a job because the person we hired 2 months ago is out there making and selling lattes. It's not the other way around. So I feel like really our employees and not the kind of the back of house administrative people are the ones that can really make or break our success and are kind of the most important people in that regard because they're dealing with customers, they're making our product, they're creating new ways to do things and kind of we really want people to drive innovation that helps them do their jobs better, that makes it easier for them to do their jobs well, that helps them make what they feel are better products. That's always been a really strong guiding principle of ours. So.
And one of the things you all definitely do different that I always enjoy is the different employees have different drink names because like there's in Israel, there's can you talk a little bit about?
Yeah, well, the Inventions Board kind of came around because our menu is getting so large and out of hand, and everyone would come in and say, oh, well, Justin made me this drink last week that was kind of like this, and can you, sort of recreate that? And we'd go, I don't know what they're talking about. And so it's like, all right, everyone just try and pick one, and we'll post that one, and that'll be like your thing, And yeah, so, but that's really fun too when a new employee kind of, finalizes like their creation and that gets put up on the board. I think that's sort of a fun moment for everybody. And
Is that sort of going into when you tell the employees that work there, experiment, if there's somebody that asks for a drink that wants it differently and you make it, you might really like the way it tastes yourself. And so how does one, that's how they get the name, is it becomes sort of the thing that's associated with them?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, people sort of create versions of things that they like to put out there. I mean, there's some, that we also have this extensive recipe file, that people can put smaller modifications into, and all of that. But I feel like everyone has kind of one area that, some people really like coffee drinks, and some people really like milkshakes, and some people really like this or that, and have fun creating something their style that goes with whatever their favorite other thing is.
So it's like there's a lot of customization that maybe there wouldn't be at other coffee shops. I mean, Starbucks has customization.
Sure, I mean, they have endless options and all of that. And, and not working at Starbucks, I guess I don't really know, but I feel like one thing that we do try and do is teach everyone, like, here are the building blocks and here are the ratios for why we flavor these drinks this certain way or whatever it is. And then once you know those basics, then you can sort of say, like, oh, well, I want to involve these two other things that are not typically in this drink, so maybe I would do them in this amount, and people can kind of play with that on their own time and when they're trying to work with a customer on something special that they want. And we encourage people to have that autonomy and not have to ask questions or permission.
Maybe this answers the question, but is that sort of what you think sets you apart from other places?
I feel like really it's sort of the employee, like the employee-centric culture in general, because, and even now where we have a board of directors / owners that are made of employees, and then we have regular staff members, it's become a little bit more of a balancing act, but especially back in the day when Alan and Johanna were involved and they were, the owners and everyone else is more regular staff, all of our decisions were guided by what employees, wanted and thought and had ideas for. And I think that is probably kind of rare. A lot of things come, very top down in companies, and I want the person who actually does the work to tell me how the work is best done.
Right.
That's the most efficient. Yeah. I don't want people to fit their work style to a policy. It's just way easier and smarter for the policy to be guided by what works for the employee. And so I feel like I've always tried to hold on to that culture, even as Etcetera has sort of evolved and changed as far as ownership structure.
Yeah, how does that look, the structure? So you say that there is a board of directors of employees, but the roles are sort of different, right?
Yeah, the roles are different, and it kind of ends up that the people on the board of directors wear a couple different hats. So, you're either on shift there as a board member or as an employee. And when you're an employee, if you're working the bar, you're making the same wage as the other people on just regular staff working the bar, you're doing the same jobs. When you're there on shift as a board member, you're not up front making drinks, but you're going to the store and buying bananas and ordering inventory and doing the bank deposits and, a laundry list of various other things. And so, yeah, it's kind of like that. The board meets weekly. We try and do a lot of, smaller decisions and tasks and divvying up of things at the weekly meetings, but there are most meetings there'll be something that comes up and we'll say, no, this needs to be an employee meeting topic, so let's move that to that list. We don't want to make this decision for everyone. And so it's just kind of that, being mindful of, how much does this affect everyone? How much involvement is everyone going to want, in determining this certain thing? And
so there's also a great deal of transparency involved too. And you talked to me about this a little bit in our pre-interview, but it was like, you said that you really let the employees know the situation, like they feel like they've got an emotional connection.
I think it's really, really important for people to be transparent, and for employees to know, everything that happens behind the scenes. And I feel like it makes employees feel more valued, and I also feel like it lets employees have a little bit of insight into what's happening, kind of in the minds and day-to-day lives of management too. So. We start off and every employee knows that they can come to me and they can say, what is some fact about, how much Etcetera has spent on milk in the past month, or like what the Etcetera bank account looks like, or, what company do we get X from? And I can tell them that data, and they have the right to expect that because, they work for us. They want the security of their paychecks coming from us. They want to know that they're working in, an environment that that works with people that they would, just sort of the general thing.
And you talked about something too I really like, which was the sort of efficiency of like turning when you have the lights on and off, like that really impacts.
Yeah, we were talking about the profit and loss report. So the first meeting of every year, what we do is I break down the previous year into sort of a simplified profit and loss report, so we can say, hey, we spent this much money on our electric bill for the entire previous year, and we spent this much money on, city licenses and permits, and every little thing, so that they have this information, and and maybe it's like, okay, so if I turn out the lights at night, then, Etcetera's profit might increase by a few pennies, and that matters to the employees because we take a quarter of the profit that Etcetera makes every year, divided up amongst everyone who works there, regardless of seniority or tenure or anything, just based on the percentage of hours worked that year. And it's not a great deal. I mean, we're busy all the time, but I kind of always say that, if we're making lots of profit, that means we just need to pay people more weekly. And
Certainly.
so, so it's not a ton, but it adds up, and, people know that if we do well, then they can also expect to be rewarded in that because they're the reason that we've done well, so.
And I know, just in my own experience being there and talking to you about it in the past, just being in the shop, but most of the folks who work for you guys end up staying long term.
For a long
they don't
time.
leave.
Yeah, and I've added it up before, and we really do have just a crazy tenure rate, and I love it. I think that says a lot about us.
I do too.
But I feel like we, sure, we ask things of the employees, like any other company would. But, we're friends as well as coworkers, as well as, manager versus employee relationships. I mean, everyone who works there spends so much time together outside of work that it's a little ridiculous. And we know that, we're going to take care of each other. that we matter to each other as people and not just employees or coworkers.
I feel like you've adopted a
And-
few customers along the way. at
Yeah,
times, too, so-
absolutely. Yeah, no, we try and keep our regulars around. So
I mean, even you, and you recently got married. Congratulations!
Thank you.
And everybody at the shop came to the wedding. I mean, so like that's an
Oh.
example of that personal investment.
yeah, and we've always, I mean, yeah, we've closed down for every Etcetera employee wedding that we've had thus far because it's, I mean, nobody's gonna miss it.
You've got
you know,
to.
yeah, like why would you, you know? So yeah, but it's fun.
Well, one of the things that I know is recently you all have had some newer folks come on board, and so whenever you hire somebody, there'd always been this line about not wanting, if you're going to hire somebody in this business, to be from a Starbucks or a different kind of coffee shop. I don't mean to keep bringing up Starbucks,
Yeah,
but,
sure. That's sort of the
but
general.
you want to have a blank slate when you do it, but that's not necessarily so, right?
I mean, it's more that we don't mind a blank slate, you know. People that come in from other places may have some ingrained habits about things that we don't do, but they also might have a background where they're just used to this sort of work more and can pick things up a little bit easier. People that come in with no experience, we can train them exactly the way that we do things, but, they might have a harder time picking up kind of the system, just the whole routine of like beverage service industry. So it's really either way, but, it's definitely not a barrier to entry to have no experience doing this sort of thing.
One
that
of the
we do.
things that definitely, whenever I see you all do what you do, it's just sort of like, I do politics for a living, and that's one thing, but like the recall memory that you all have to be able to do that. I mean, you're
And
not
I
going back
forget-
and looking at the recipes.
Man,
do
and
you?
I forget that a lot too, how much harder it is to come in now as opposed to, because I've been around the whole time, so I was there when we made the recipe for this one drink that's absolutely standard now, and so when training people, I'm like, oh gosh, I can't imagine coming in now and having to learn just this incredible laundry list of things, but yeah, people do really well and pick it up, and
I will say,
you know.
of Levi, I have seen Levi do the training, and
Levi's
he
an
is very
excellent
much got
trainer.
the quick recall. Hey, buddy, what goes into this?
Yeah, I'm really, because Levi's our main trainer right now, and I'm really happy with that because he's very good with that and quizzing people and being an example. Levi's kind of been our quality control technical guy. I got him into doing a lot of the coffee machine repair and maintenance and all of that, and kind of directing how our coffee tastes and how our drinks are supposed to taste, and and he's really taken off on that. So
Man, he's such a people person. He's really
he's-
good with dealing with that environment.
yeah, he's great. We've had Levi since 2013. He's the newest hire of the board members, actually, which is kind of funny.
Which that's almost 10 years now. So
Yeah, because we've got, Emily and I are 2006, Tony is 2009, and John is 2010, and then Levi's 2013. But yeah, we were really lucky to have him arrive in the Etcetera family because.
And something else that I know, so it's not just coffee at Etcetera, obviously. You all do baked goods and all kinds of things like that, right?
We do, and we don't have a huge kitchen. We definitely get by, but it was sort of, we did the coffee part first back in the day, and then realized like, oh, we need to figure out, there's another part of this that people also want, and so. Most of it was done by Johanna, and then I slowly took over her things. And then now I have someone else that's in there during the week at this point, Brandy, which is great because she's actually, trained and, has gone to culinary school and done all of that. And so she's turning out things that I have no idea how to make, which is amazing, and people love it, which is really exciting to kind of see that evolve. But
something else, until recently too, Etcetera has a much wider sort of variety of things that they were up to. So for a long time, about 8 years, you all used to do an open mic Or
We
it was
did.
put on by the Paducah Writers
Yeah,
Group?
the Paducah Writers Group, they started using our space. It was in 2007 or 2008. I don't remember exactly because it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wanted to try and stay open late Friday and Saturday nights when we first opened. And, you know, to mix success, you know, in the first year of starting anything, it's kind of like having people find out about it still. But when they approached us about using the space on Friday nights, that really took off and got popular. And so eventually we dropped staying open late on Saturday and just stayed open late Friday nights for them.
And that too, you know, if you're trying to build name recognition for your business, having them come for seeing a musician or a comedian or somebody perform their talent, I mean, they're going to stay and get drinks too. One would assume.
Oh, yeah. No, it was, you know, Friday nights were always really, really busy. And, you know, and I feel like it did a lot for kind of pulling in like a younger crowd. And I mean, we've had so many people that we've very literally watched grow up at Etcetera. You know, like one of our hires that came in late last year, Hannah, you know, we remember her being there as like a freshman in high school, you know, sitting on the stool by the cash register bothering us like back then, and you know, and now she's working for us and, you know, one of our super good friends. And
That's exactly.
yeah,
I
and
think
it's really cool.
it says something about, you know, the environment that you all create, that somebody would come in and buy a drink and then be like, I actually want to do that.
Let me be part of the family, please. Yeah. So.
Well, I think that's great. And you know, one of the other things that I thought was interesting was I had Todd Holloman on the show recently, and he said that he first had the courage to get up and do his comedy in front of the crowds at Etcetera, and Snacks Hawkins too, and Grace Stewart. And so it's just interesting that when people in Paducah know about these people, or be it social media or however, some of that started there as well.
And it's really cool for me to hear about, you know, because I've been kind of doing that thing for so long. You tend to lose track a little bit of how big the bubble really is, outside of just the specific thing that you do and you sort of have been going through the motions with. So yeah, it's stories like that that I think are really cool.
How did COVID impact the business? Because I mean, it impacted everybody. You have crowds that come into places, so you all did like a drive-through.
Yeah, we ended up, we closed down for, it was a little over a month and a half, I think, and then some of our employees, you know, because we definitely did not want anyone coming back to work who felt unsafe about coming back to work, you know, and enough of the employees said like, hey, I'm stuck at home, like I want to do something, let's figure out something that could work. And so we ended up doing a drive-through sort of scenario for, I think we kept it up for almost a year, I think. But yeah, so just no one in the building, and, you know, to limit contact as much as possible. And just trying to be really safe about everything. And
thankfully, at least for now, there's no more global pandemics. No, we're not going to have anything terrible happen.
Yeah, so we made it through. And I feel like we kind of tried to hold on to, you know, the masking and everything like that as long as possible. I know the climate in the South is sometimes, you know, did not have the best reaction to that. But yeah, it's, I mean, it's employees first, you know, like if we're not keeping our people safe, then like what are we doing?
That's exactly right.
You know.
And, you know, in all these years later, from starting in 2006, you've got two businesses now. You've got one over on the Market House by Kirchhoff's, and you have the one on 6th Street. Talk about the expansion and maybe where you see Etcetera going down the road.
Well, you'll have to ask Levi about where we see Etcetera going down the road, because he's our forward-thinking, passionate guy.
Levi, we're going to be talking.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, he's, you know, so. But yeah, we opened that store in 2010. We already sort of had a relationship with Kirchhoff's and everyone downtown, since, you know, we're kind of next door neighbors. And had been getting some baked goods and stuff from Kirchhoff's for years and sort of knew them. And they had a spot opening up. They were about to lose the lady running the coffee shop inside their space. And, you know, we thought about it and said, well, you know, like we could fill that, you know, it's not, and it's really worked out, you know, oddly, them being so close together has not really been an issue. And it is really a different crowd that you get at both.
Yeah.
It seems like more of our like tourists and people visiting downtown and kind of daily office workers and everything, they go to the one inside Kirchhoff's, and then the neighborhood place is more 6th Street.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that if you go to the 6th Street one, you're always at that one. You don't ever go to the other one or vice versa.
Yeah, there's
that's
very
okay.
little overlap, which is funny, but you know, and everyone works at both locations, so I mean, we really are two businesses under one umbrella, you know. The office and stock area and everything is all at 6th Street, and we kind of just run them both together, which has made it really easy. So.
You've been administrative director for quite some time. Are you planning to stay there? What's the future for you?
I mean, I'm exploring some other options. You know, I feel like I'm always looking for a new crisis, and you know, so yeah, we're investigating that currently, pending some mysterious job interviews. But you know, it is really nice to have this team that I've been lucky enough to build around me, that I can say, you know, if I leave, that this thing that I helped create is going to keep going and it's going to keep providing for our friends, family, community, and you know, that I trust everyone who is currently in leadership of it, like, to take it in that direction and succeed with it. You know, because that's always been really important, that it be a sustainable source of income for the people that we have working for us, and you know, that it kind of continues on to do whatever good it's done. So yeah, that's really cool, and I'm really thankful to the rest of my board of directors that they've really taken that up. So
I want to thank you for coming on the show, of course, and as someone who's a frequent patron there, I mean, I feel like I've been welcomed into that family to some degree, and we appreciate your time, and you're welcome to come back with us any time on the show.
No problem.
So
Enjoyed it.
that was my guest, Jean Rhodes, Administrative Director at Etcetera Coffeehouse. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.